Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be doing this super simple Let It Snow tumbler with some 3D snow elements. Now, those elements are completely optional, of course, but I really feel like it kind of added to it. As always, I'll make sure to put everything I used today into the description box below so that you guys can shop those items if you would like to. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. Starting off with my base, I went ahead and I prepped it and I primed it this London Fog color. And I want to talk to you guys about when you spray paint your tumblers. So I'm going to be applying the vinyl straight over top of my painted surface here. So I like to spray paint mine the night before, and I don't like to apply my vinyls to it or do any type of taping over top of the paint. There we go. Until that paint has properly cured for at least overnight. That's what I like to say. So about 8 hours. So you'll notice a huge difference if you're having an issue, especially if you put tape over it to do, masking and stuff, and you peel it back and it peels the paint back. Try letting that paint sit overnight and you shouldn't have that issue. So I went ahead and I prepped, like I said, and primed it the night before. And now let's go ahead and get our decals cut out. So this first set of trees here that I'm showing you guys is going to be behind everything. So we're going to be doing kind of like a blizzard scene. So you just want these a bit bigger. And I'm going to slim them down just a little bit too. You see, I unlocked it. So I'm going to make them about 5 inches in height. And then I made about 2.5 in width. So I just want them a little bit bigger because, like I said, those are going to be going behind everything. So I don't know. I did up about probably 4 or 5. It depends on how big the tumblers that you're using. But that's about what I did. And I think I believe I used all of them. I can't remember. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate those up. And now this next tree that I'm going to do, this one's going to be the ones that are going to be in the front. So I want those a bit thinner. So I'm going to bring them down to about 2 inches in width. And then I'm going to shrink them down just a little bit more as well, just so that way they don't peer up too much in the front. So you just want those to be just a bit thinner and a bit smaller than the ones in the back. And for the quote, I went ahead and typed it out myself, so it could obviously say whatever you want it to say. It doesn't have to say let it snow, or it doesn't even have to say anything at all. I mean, completely up to you. So I went ahead and I typed that out, and then I did the line spacing at -6, and then that's pretty much it for that. And I think it was about a little over 3 and 3. So for the dimensions after it was all said and done there. So for the gray trees, they are going to be cut out in a matte silver vinyl. The black trees with the quote there, that's all in black, is going to be cut out in a white vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and get those cut, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so our background trees are nicely cut out here, and I really like the shapes that I found off Creative Fabrica. They were so easy to weed. It was super easy to work with. So now we're just going to take our gray pieces, because this is going to be, like I said, the background, and we are going to just pretend as we lay them down that there is a rolling hill underneath it. So you just want to kind of place them kind of up and down. So as you see here, I started more upwards, and then I'm going to make my way kind of down a bit, and I'm going to end again kind of back up at the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and place my other one there around the other side. Again, you just want to think of it like a rolling hill, because we're going to be doing snow at the bottom here. So as I get this going again, I just kind of look at it and decide I want that one down just a little bit lower there. But my main focus was trying not to put it too down low, so that way I gave myself enough space to do what I want to do after I apply all my trees here. So now that all of our trees are applied, I'm just going to come through and make sure that everything is firmly pressed against our tumbler base, so that way nothing's lifted at all. And then we are going to go ahead and take this outside and get some spray paint put on the bottom. So I'm just going to be using a basic white spray paint. It doesn't matter if it's gloss or matte or whatever you have on hand. Whatever you have works just fine. Now we're just going to follow that hill shape that we did right along the bottom. It's okay that you bring your spray paint up a little bit onto your vinyl as well. It completely adds to the look of everything, especially after we get that first set of epoxy put onto it. So I wish I would have been a little bit more on screen for this, but that is what it is. But I'm basically just following again right along that line that I gave myself along the bottom of the trees. See, there we go. Super simple, super easy. And I really liked the overspray as well. Again, that just adds to it. I let that dry completely, and now we're ready to add our first layer of epoxy right over top. So I have about 20 milliliters of epoxy down in my cup there that I've already stirred up and everything. And I'm going to be using my mica powder called Betty. And you can find my mica powder, there we go, at sscglitters.com if you would like to. So the main thing I can say with this is our background. So we want to not add too much of this mica at a time. So I ended up doing one little bit of mica, as you see in there, and I knew that wasn't going to be enough. So I ended up adding another scoop of mica, and altogether I ended up adding 3 just little scoops of mica until I got the consistency of the coloring that I would like. But you definitely just want to do a little bit at a time until you get it to where you want it. So I wanted it to be where when I apply it over top of the trees, you can kind of see the trees through it, but I want it to look like a blizzard. So you look out in a blizzard and you can only kind of really see the outlines of the trees whenever you're that deep in the snow like that. So that's kind of the look that I was going for here. So you don't want to add too much. You definitely still want to be able to see everything through it, so don't thicken it up too much. So just a little bit at a time. But I absolutely love how this turned out on this layer. I just love how it really does give that effect of the trees just kind of through the snow, and it really does look like you're standing in the middle of a field in the middle of a blizzard, to me at least. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish getting this applied and then put it onto my turner. So like with applying all mica powders in your epoxy, or if you're applying glitter into your epoxy, sometimes it can get a little streaky. So with mica powders in particular, this is what I like to do to kind of combat that. So I'm just going to take a heating source. I'm just going to take my nifty little hair dryer there, just anything with a little bit of heat to it to kind of blow everything around. You don't want to heat it up too much, just a little bit of heat to get everything moving. And then I'm just going to tilt my tumbler back and forth, and this really helps, there we go, with melting all that kind of mica and making it more fluid looking rather than streaky. And then I'll just go ahead and let that turn and cure, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, that is nice and cured, and look at that shimmer, so pretty. I really love how that looks. So now I have some white paint, and it's the same white paint that I used earlier, and we're going to give it more of a snow look by doing up our own little speckled snow paint droplets there. Just press that nozzle down and release really slow until it gets the little spits and sputters going, and just fully load that up with your snow look. I even did it underneath the handle, around the top of the handle, just everywhere, even on the bottom and everything. And I'm going to let that dry, and then once it's dry, we'll be ready to add our finishing decals. So right over top of that spray painted snow we just did, we're going to go ahead and apply our quote first. If you have a quote, you want to do that first, and then you can kind of put your trees around it, especially if you're doing white on white like I did. If you're not doing it like this, then, obviously you can put your trees down, then your quote, or however you would like it, but that's how I'm going to do it here today. And for the trees, it's kind of the same concept as we did at the ones in the back. You're just going to bring them down a little bit more. You don't want them up as high. There we go. You want to bring them down a little bit more into the white area versus up into the gray area like we did with the trees in the background. So I'm just going to go ahead and layer these trees on real quick. And after I get this last tree on, I decided I wanted to add a little bit more of that kind of just 3D look to it, because this is just all about snow, and I felt like it just needed maybe just a little bit more, but again, it's completely optional. So I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly where I put my trees here. So as you can see here, again, just made sure that I didn't cover up the trees in the background too much, and just pretended like there was a rolling hill and just kind of followed that line all the way around. And for my snow, I'm going to use my Aliens Glitter Snow, of course. If you guys watched my vertical beach tumbler that I did, I used this for it. And I'm sure you guys are probably like, oh, what else am I going to use this for? Well, now you can use it for actually making snow with it, So, and you guys also asked me when I did that vertical beach tumbler about using paints and puffy paints and all that, and of course you can absolutely use that instead of the Aliens Glitter Snow if you would like to do this as well and you just can't seem to find it. So use your puffy paints or whatever you got to do, completely up to you guys. So I'm just going to take this glitter snow and I'm just going to get this started with piling up my base of my trees here. So I just take a little brush, I'm taking a dollop of the glitter snow, and then as you can see here, it's very easy. You just take it and dab it around the base of your tree, and we're pretty much just anchoring our trees so it doesn't look like they're just kind of floating on the tumbler. So let's say you didn't have the Aliens Glitter Snow and you wanted to use like your paint or your puffy paint. Obviously the puffy paint, you don't have to do anything to it after you apply the puffy paint. You just want to be very careful so it doesn't cause it to drip or anything. But you could also add some glitter to it to kind of give it a little bit more of a glitter look to it. The acrylic paint, you could do the same as well. You could kind of dabble it on there and then add some glitter to it to kind of give it a little bit more sparkle, because snow does have a little bit of a sparkle to it. So again, you know, wherever your imagination takes you, let it take you there. So this stuff dries relatively quick when it's really thin. So by the time I made it around to the front, I was able to apply another layer of the snow over top. And as you see here, I'm extending it out into, you know, the distance there to make it look like more like hills and stuff happening through our tumbler. So you pretty much just want to keep going and apply your glitter snow until your heart feels happy. You know, you look at it and you're like, I really like the way that looks, then go ahead and stop there. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and finish doing up my little hills here. It's pretty simple. I know you guys got this. After I was done doing the bottom, I decided I wanted to add a little bit up onto the handles, because why not, you know? So I went ahead and I put some dollops up around the top of the handle there, and I just filled it in again until I was happy with how that looked. But as you can see here, I did have to go a little bit thicker with it, just so that way it was pretty pronounced. I wanted to, you know, to be able to see it pretty well. So then after I did the top part of my handle, I decided to come through and do the inside of the bottom of the handle as well. So, you know, snow got caught in there as well. So again, once your heart is happy and you like the way it looks, you want to let that sit. I let mine sit overnight. You'll definitely feel a difference. If you come back in an hour, it's still going to feel kind of soft, especially because of how thick we may have put it on. If you did it real thin, it'll dry super fast, but the thicker it is, it's gonna need to take a little bit longer. So if you let it dry overnight, you'll feel it is definitely a lot harder the next morning. So you want to let that sit overnight before we apply another coat of epoxy over top. All right, we're ready for our finishing coats of epoxy here, and into one of my last coats of epoxy. There we go. I have 20 milliliters of epoxy, and I'm going to add 2 little scoops of Betty into my epoxy again one last time to kind of give everything just that fogginess or that hazy look of a winter's day. But I even thought about adding a little bit of sparkle dust into it. If you wanted just a little bit more sparkle with it, you obviously could do that. But this mica powder has a pretty good shimmer to it. So I decided just to leave it with the mica powder this time around. But again, the sparkle dust would look really cute too. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and apply these last 2 finishing coats of epoxy, and she is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.